all for being here. This is our last one of the semester, so hopefully you all have enjoyed this new format. We've gotten positive feedback, so continue giving us that feedback if you've got it, and we will kind of keep this format for next year. All right, let me introduce our wonderful guests. So let's see, we'll start here. Dominic McFadden graduated last December. He earned a bachelor's degree in political science and economics. He is a sales management trainee at Enterprise Rent-A-Car in Winchester, where he works with customers on a daily basis to meet their needs and help add revenue to the company's bottom line. He has earned Salesman of the Month 2 out of the first 6 months of employment. So it's very impressive. All right. Hold for applause. Craig, is there something going on? It's still very like tinny or something. Maybe that's better? Okay. And then we have Mr. John Briggs. He also graduated in 2021. He entered into the world of sales and customer service as a student when he worked part-time for Roof Simple. After graduating with a degree in history, he stepped into the role of project support full-time, where he exercises his liberal education managing construction projects from acquiring the lead and making the initial sale to completion of the project. He resides in Strasburg, Virginia, is an avid musician. I think we all know his musical abilities, right? Yes, both of yours? Yeah. You guys didn't bring instruments. You guys could have played at the end of this.
Yeah, that's after the song.
Yeah. Afterwards? Yeah. Okay.
Leif is a musician as well.
Oh, yes. Oh, guys, we missed out on an opportunity here.
Right, Leif?
Okay, but let me just finish your one last line. And John is passionate about helping others to realize their potential through sales. So, welcome, John. And finally, we have Leif Pilegaard. He lives in Arizona, so he was not able to fly out to be here with us today. But he graduated in 2015 and has spent the past 7 years focusing on business development efforts, ranging from software sales for international companies across the globe to healthcare education programs in Europe and South America. He's worked for both private and public companies, has the latest tips and tricks for climbing the sales ladder, and enjoys discussing the ABCs of selling, which stands for always be closing. So he will share more about that with us in a little bit. So we are very excited to have you all here so that you all can educate our students a little bit about sales and customer service and what in the world that means, and what all the different types of jobs they can get, how they can enter into the field, how they get experience, etc. So Leif, I would actually love it if you could kind of start us out and give us your definition or overview of what sales is in a very brief sound bite, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a great place to start would be to see that like everything is technically sales. Like from working at Christendom in the admissions office to working for an IT company to working working in software to even like working for the church. Like you're always like selling yourself to a certain degree. Like when I was working as an admissions coordinator for Christendom, like I'm selling Christendom. Like I'm trying to sell the Christendom experience. I'm trying to get students to attend the college. And then like going from there, I kind of like planted the seeds a bit for like having that spark of, hey, I want to find your area where you want to specialize in and grow. And so kind of like as this like really grand spectrum of it all, like sales, like you can apply anything to sales. Like you're always kind of selling yourself. Even like with friendships as well, like, no one wants a bad friend. You all want to have someone who's like your right-hand man, your left-hand man, to be by your side. So you're always trying to put on the best side of you. And I guess for me, like, I wanted to be a teacher. Like that was like the path I wanted to go down. For years, I was focusing on being a teacher. Like I'd say from like maybe junior, senior year of high school to going into Christendom, like teaching was what I wanted to do. And then eventually, like, long story short, I found out like, well, it's maybe not so much the academic side is like where I want to focus on, or actually is my God-given like talents to be more in like software, IT, and kind of outside the academic side. But kind of like forming the two worlds together is that you have this still like selling, so you're still teaching to a certain degree. Like in the sales, if you're not educating the customer, then you're not really selling. Like selling is always going to be educating. You're always, bringing them from 0 to 10. You're always increasing their knowledge of it, finding out whatever pain problem they have or difficulty they have with their situation or scenario. But you're just basically taking them from point A to point B along the path, and so that teaching element there. Does that answer your question, Kristen? In terms of like a
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And thank you for giving us a little bit of background. I didn't know that you wanted to go into teaching, and I love that combining and showing that they align very well. So
Absolutely.
do you want
Yeah,
to add on to
absolutely.
that? And Leif kind of told us how he got started in sales a little bit in his direction, so why don't you guys tell us as well?
Yeah, for me, like you said earlier, I kind of got into it while at Christendom. It was mainly just kind of customer service because I was doing project management, managing jobs basically from their beginning to their end. Then transitioned after graduation, went into full-time sales, where basically I'm acquiring leads by door knocking, making sales, managing those jobs all the way to the end essentially, which is super rewarding. And then going back to the question, I think I really want to reiterate what Leif was saying about sales is so universal. It like every single job, every single walk of life is utilizing sales. Not only is like our entire economy built on sales, we're always going to need people to be selling, everything we have, like he said, in the church, at schools, in software, construction, everything. But even down to like, he said, like friendships, I think that's a really big one, relationships. You're always kind of selling yourself in a certain way. And even you guys as students, and this is something I've been reflecting on, is like, as a student, you are selling yourself to your teacher, like when you're writing a paper, when you're, taking an essay, an exam or whatever. You're proving to your teacher that you're worthy of a grade, which is a very kind of essential foundation of sales, which is kind of, imparting the truth, but showing your worth, and, trying to move from point A to point B, which I think is super cool. So I think it's good to reflect on just, for everyone, is that you are developing skills that are essential to sales, wherever you are. And so that's super cool. So you should be proud of that.
Yeah. And actually, that brings up something for especially the freshmen. This semester, we talked about your professional brand, right? Your personal brand. And so you're always selling your personal brand.
Absolutely.
And all those different factors, combine and build that for you. So tell us about you and getting into enterprise and sales.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I really started from the sales aspect. That was something I've always wanted to do. Really came out of during Christendom, had a lot of opportunity to work, just like Leif was saying, in the admissions office, doing a lot of the counseling, got into summer program, loved the leadership there, worked in that for 3 years, and just constantly selling Christendom, realized I was really passionate about it, and felt I could talk to literally anyone in the world about it, and convinced a lot of people from saying absolutely no to somehow saying yes, all just by talking.
Maybe some of these people in here?
Some people here, possibly. So that was something I was like, this is actually really interesting. I love the drive of like, well, let's just have a conversation and see where it goes. And just kind of going through that rabbit hole, end up turning around their answer being like, wow, I could never choose anywhere else. So really that led me to Enterprise Rent-A-Car after I graduated early last December. And it just seemed like a good fit. It changed my focus a little bit because it's a lot of customer service with sales added on top. So you're more providing an excellent service, selling yourself, of course, through talking with customers, but then also adding the opportunity of, well, we have these other options that make your experience better, and how can I help you through having a conversation about your situation and your difficulties you're going through, whether it's through an insurance problem, your car got totaled, being able to say, how can I make this experience better for you? And here are some options you never thought of. Let's make it better, and let me just talk to you for a second and get to know you. And that's really where the kind of sales field and why I still love it. Huge thing for me is if you're competitive, you like to kind of beat the game. Just think of the game as yourself. You can always get better, and it's such an easy way to see results rather than, maybe if I work harder, I can get a raise in a year. No, I can see results tomorrow in the next paycheck, a new promotion right up the road here, which I think is something really unique to sales. We'll can't talk more about that.
Yeah, that's super rewarding. One thing I want to touch on, kind of just because Dominic mentioned that he was always passionate about sales. I never, ever, ever wanted to do sales. It was not on my mind. In fact, I think, like, you know, you take those like tests for ELP, like on personality and stuff. Like, I think if someone had asked me, or maybe they even did, or maybe there was something I said, but like, if it was like, what's the least likely job you would do? I think probably I would have said sales. And you might ask, you know, how did I end up here? Well, I mean, that's a variety of, you know, things that led me here. But I think the point of me saying that is that, sales is super misunderstood, I think. It's also super saturated by, I think, genuinely bad people. Not all, you know, not across the board, but there's a reason. I think I had a bad idea of sales just because there's a lot of cliches about, you know, kind of sleazy salespeople, you know, people who don't have moral backbones and liars. And also like that you have to be this like super outgoing people person, which I think that helps, but it's also not necessary. But the point of what I'm saying is I think just it is very doable for a lot more people than I think give it the benefit of a doubt. And I think I am a testament to that. I mean, I never would have thought I could have done it or, you know, would have ever wanted to do it. And now, you know, I'm loving it. So, yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that because that's important. And I think I've talked to some students who coming to a Life on Tap and learning about a job opportunity, a career industry, they're all of a sudden like, wait a minute, I could do that. So this is helpful to hear that, hey, you didn't think you could do it. So some of you might have come just for the check the box, but you guys actually might walk away wanting to do sales. And just a quick note, Craig, we did kind of lose Leif, and it showed us his view for a moment, I think. But we're back. I think we're good. Okay, and actually, Leif. So Dominic was talking about, you know, offering different opportunities in sales to people. And would you call that, first of all, Dominic, would you call that upselling?
Oh, absolutely.
So that's
It's absolutely
upselling.
Yep.
So, Leif, you gave me a couple different questions and definitions of things. So can you talk a little bit about some of the common vernacular and jargon that goes along with sales that people need to know, such as upselling?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a good place to start would be kind of going into like when you're getting into sales, what lingo, what terminology you need to know. Because like when you get into like a sales interview and you have a director or a manager like, hey, tell me about like why you want to work for my company and tell me about like what you're looking for and why should I hire you? Like you're going to get these really direct questions and you need to be like on your toes to be firing them back just as fast. And there's a lot of terminologies when I went into sales. And when I say maybe like when I actually really started my sales career, it was more into the enterprise level, the software field where it now kind of like dominates all across the globe. And like for some of the first interviews I had, like it was a massive struggle because like I didn't know the lingo that these managers were referring to, and like it obviously showed on my face because I'd be like kind of dumbfounded or I wouldn't know how to answer the question. And so if you're looking to get into like software sales or IT sales or anything of, let's say, a company that sells any of those two solutions, products, services, like you need to know and understand kind of how it all works and how like the breakdown is. Like, for example, when I first started kind of diving into the area of sales, one of my friends who like went out to coffee, we sat down and he had a good couple of years behind his belt. And I was like, just tell me like what do I need to know? Like how do I like make managers or hiring managers like me to get into this position? And he like broke it down really well. And he's like, look, you have to understand that when you're getting into sales, there's inbound sales and then there's outbound sales. And then there is working up from that. Like it's kind of like the inbound, outbound is surrounded by the role of the sales rep. So all you're doing is you're taking leads that are coming onto your website, that are coming maybe inbounding through a phone call or through an email. They're fresh leads, they're warm, they're easy conversations because they know about your brand, they know about who you are as a company. And so they're these easy conversations. And you as a sales rep, like you're just qualifying the lead. That's all you're doing. You're qualifying them of, hey, like, is this a good fit? Hey, how many employees do you have? What pain points are you having? Like, for an example of Dominic, I'd say, if Dominic had someone walk into his office and they said, yeah, you know what, we're looking for an airline. Dominic's gonna be like, no, we do cars. Like that's not a qualified lead. Sorry, move on. We'll refer you to someone else. And so that as a sales rep is what you're doing. Like everyone in sales starts there. If you're looking at that area, you're a sales rep, and you're getting inbound leads. So then to take it a step higher, after you get comfortable, after 3 or 4 months, you do outbound sales, which is where you're kind of pulling those bad fit leads and you're just diving a little bit deeper. It's a little bit higher pay because it's a more difficult job. You're getting maybe cussed out. People are like shutting the door on you or hanging up the phone on you. Like there's a lot of like grinding that you have to do. So when I started as an inbound rep, I'm getting these inbound leads. I'm qualifying them. And then what I'd be doing, I'd be like following up on other leads that maybe people bad fitted, but they weren't really qualified 100%. So I'd be making anywhere from 100 to 200 dials a day. Like I'm on the phone, I'm trying to book meetings, and I'm qualifying them, and I'm passing them off to the account executive. And the account executive is the one who closes the deal. It says, all right, let's sit down, let's have a 30-minute conversation, and let's actually hear these pain points, and let's maybe put the deal across the finish line. So I think that's like, as a student, personally, something I wish I had known, it were those terminologies, the lingo, like inbound sales versus outbound sales. And you do inbound or outbound as a sales rep, or another term might be business development representative, BDR for short. So you have these SDRs, sales development representative, BDR, business development representative. And after that, that's when you work up to account executive, which is where like you're closing the deals, you're making the big bucks, you're having more lengthier conversations, and you're trying to actually get the deal across the finish line.
Okay, that was awesome.
Absolutely.
Lots of letters. Can you just quickly tell us about B2B and B2C?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, in sales, like it can apply to everything, to anything. So a lot of lingo that I struggled with or kind of understanding was like business to business. Another abbreviation, B2B. One business is selling their product or services or solutions to another business. Like IBM is like trying to sell their services, their solutions to another business like Google. Like it's a business relationship. Or you can do sales on like the business to customer relationship. That would be B2C. And so that would be selling, that'd be like working for a store where, or in Dominic's case, like, and most of Dominic's cases I would say are like B2C, where like you're selling to a customer. They're coming to the business, the customer is like coming to the business to rent a car, or a customer is going to a grocery store, another case of B2C. And like just little lingo like that goes a long way when you're talking with an hiring manager and they're asking you about sales and why they should hire you, and saying things like, hey, I'm good at B2B sales, or hey, I'm good at B2C sales, and like customers love me, or I had this experience at Christendom and working at, doing a lot of, maybe like ambassador work. So I'm talking with parents who have like students are coming, and it has more of a B2C relationship there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, I think, sorry,
go ahead, yeah.
one other distinction in terminology to understand, especially like now, because I don't think I understood it as much, and it's all just about taxes. But you're gonna see it in any sales position that you're applying to or just seeing online. Is the distinction between inside and outside sales. So an inside sales rep is going to be someone who's on a salary. They're technically like a W-2 employee of the company, and they might get some small commissions on top for the sales they make. And then an outside sales rep is someone who's on a 1099. They're a subcontractor technically. They're technically self-employed, even if they only really work for the company that technically hires them in a sense. And they're 1099, so they're taxed completely differently. So that's something to keep in mind. You're going to see lots of positions, that are inside sales or outside sales. So that's just a distinction to be aware of, and I'd be happy to talk about it later, afterwards if you want to go into details on that.
That's really helpful. I don't think I quite understood that either. And just so you all know, 1099, when you are a 1099 contractor, it means that no taxes are taken out of the income that you earn. You are responsible for saving some of that and being able to pay it back at tax time. So just please note, I will repeat that to you over and over again. We sent an email about it a couple weeks ago because you don't want to walk into a 1099 position and think, oh, look at all this money I have, and Uncle Sam hasn't taken it yet. So you need to put that aside. So thanks for bringing that up. Dominic, did you have anything to add about the jargon and lingo that people need to be aware of?
No, I mean, I think Leif kind of hit it nicely. I mean, a lot of my business is through B2C kind of interactions. So Even there's a little bit of, kind of B2B interaction, business to business, because, a lot of sales is not only, it's something I kind of never really thought about the market, but in any sort of sales, if you're working as a contractor, you're working selling products, you not only have to sell and promote yourself to your customers, but another big thing is relationships to the people that you work with, because if you want to continue to maintain and build your kind of empire that has pretty much endless opportunity in sales, it's all about how you build a relationship with people on the same level or above you. So, for instance, I deal with a lot of retail dealerships with cars. People who trust our branch want to give us more business, which makes our lives easier because it means more people coming through, more revenue. And that's kind of something I do on a daily basis, is maintaining relationships with other businesses. Something I never really thought about when I was going into this, kind of retail. I thought it was just business to customer. But there's a whole other plane of sales that there's just endless opportunity when you get there. So it's kind of my 2 cents of how that relates to my, my position.
Okay, yeah. John, tell us a little bit about day to day. Like what does a day look like for you?
Well, I work at Roof Simple. I made the distinction between inside and outside sales. I am an outside sales rep. So I technically work for myself, essentially, or I'm self-employed, but I'm employed, or I'm contracted by Roof Simple. I generate, it's actually kind of cool. Leif was touching on all of kind of different types of sales, whether you're doing inbound sales, outbound sales. I'm kind of doing it all because not only am I making the sale or, calling people and then handing it off to account executive, like I'm also that account executive because I'm basically handling every aspect of the sale. So I'm essentially a marketer, a sales rep, a customer service rep, kind of a project manager at the same time, and then I'm doing all this stuff following up. So on the day-to-day, I generate leads for the company, and that's why it's worth a lot, because a lot of companies have a lot of overhead paying for marketing, online marketing or whatever. But since I'm basically doing that for the company, it's worth a lot. But I generate leads by knocking on doors and basically anything. There's a lot of creativity involved, and it's really fun because you can find lots and lots of different ways to generate leads, essentially. Whether that's sending out letters, which I've done, which has been really cool. Just calling people who might be interested or who might know someone who's interested. Knocking on doors, like I said, that's the biggest thing, usually in storm areas where there's been a lot of wind or hail. Day to day, I'm going to confess that I have pretty unproductive mornings because it's hard to knock on people's doors in the morning. Most people don't want to talk to you in the morning. But I usually just do like admin work in the mornings, responding to emails, dealing with things I need to do, and other stuff, personal things. And then I usually knock doors in the afternoon, 12 to like 6. Usually, sometimes it's not that long, but different stages during that period. And then there's lots of different aspects that I'm doing. I'm meeting with customers that I've already set up appointments for. I'm visiting my installs because we do roofs. I'm asking for referrals, yada yada. It's a lot. It's a lot involved, but it's really cool.
So when you say you visit your installs, so like after a project has been finished, you're going in and checking in on them, hoping to get a referral to somebody else.
Yeah, or just saying hi.
Or just say hi. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. So you're not in the office a lot. Do you work at a Roof Simple office, or are you working from home in the mornings?
I usually just work from home, but I can work at the office.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of a general idea of my day. It's very different on different days, but yeah.
Okay. And Leif, you work from home, correct?
I used to work remotely, and then I was like, what? I kind of want to change the scenery, be at the office, and switch it up. So I've been working remotely for the last 2 years, just at my house, wake up in the morning, go to 6:30 mass, and then do some prayer time, and then come back to my house, my office, and then I just start picking up calls, and then now I work in the office and working on getting my laptop to do like a hybrid scenario where I'll spend 3 days in the office and then 2 days at home, maybe a Monday and a Friday, kind of extend the weekend a bit.
Nice. So tell us a little bit about your day-to-day. You mentioned 200 dials per day. So tell us more about what that means and all the other stuff that you do.
Yeah. So what I'm gonna do, I won't talk about like my day-to-day right now, because I think that's like, it's almost like shooting up in the clouds a bit. I think the best place to start would be like my day-to-day when I was working as an inbound and an outbound sales rep, since that's where most of the students graduating. If you're going that route, that's where it's going to start. If you're going down that path. So like what my day would look like as a sales rep, like I clock in at 8 a.m. If I'm on the West Coast or the East Coast, like I can sort lists depending on the time zone that like people are inbounding, or maybe like I want to have a follow-up call. So I can book a meeting for my account executive, so the account executive can process the meeting, talk with the client. So typically, like most of the days that start around 8 a.m., I clock in. I might have a team meeting with my manager, and then I'll just jump on the phone from like 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. just like cranking out calls. And again, there's various ways leads come in. It comes through the website. It can come through maybe an outbound call that I make if I want to. It may come through like inbounds through the phone. And so yeah, I'm making about around $100 in the morning and then $100 like in the afternoon. So it's a very like go environment. And then typically I'd wrap up my day around like 5:30. So I think something that's interesting is that when I first started in this field, I was very intimidated because I was like, I don't have a software experience. I'm coming from like a very small college like Christendom, and I was competing against people who were like from Gartner, from these top Fortune 500 companies. They already had like phone experience where I had a little bit, but not as much, or not to the point where I'd like. And so when I started, it was like very intimidating. I was trying to understand the process. There was all these like tools and technologies that I was very not familiar with, and that I had to get accustomed to. And when I started, it felt so uncomfortable. Like, I didn't know what to think. I thought of like quitting my job multiple times until one day I was like doing these calls. And again, remember that your managers are always watching you. Like, they're watching your numbers, how many meetings you're booking. Was it a qualified lead? Was it not a qualified lead? If it's a non-qualified lead, why did you book it? Why did you waste the account executive's time? And so you were kind of playing defense and offense in the role. But I'll never forget it. There was this was, I think, within the first month of me starting, the VP of sales who had interviewed me walks in. And he's like, "Hey, Leif, I heard you're the most consistent on the team." And instead of saying, "Oh, I heard you booked that like amazing like $50,000 deal," or "I heard you had this amazing conversation with like this CEO or this prospect," he was saying, "You're consistent. You show up at 8 a.m. and you clock out at 5 p.m. and you put in 200 dials a day." And that's all the managers want to see. Like, they just want you to put in a hard day's work. Whereas some other sales reps were like, maybe they booked a really good meeting, but it just didn't really go anywhere after that. Like, it was like a one-time show. So I think consistency in the area of software sales or phone sales is like really important. Like, for me, like, work hard, play hard. Like, as Dr. McGuire, Dr. Sissel, like, would always say, like, just work hard, play hard. Like, do your studies, but then make sure you're resting on the weekend. And for me, like, same thing. Like, clock in at 8 a.m., put in your 8 hours, and then at 5 p.m., clock out. Don't respond to any other emails or do any other work, and just rest up and, the next day hard again.
Okay,
That's
thank you for
crazy.
sharing that. What's that?
No, it's just very different from what I do.
Very different from you, yes. Okay, so tell us, all of this sounds fantastic, and obviously, Leif just talked about, he felt like quitting a couple times. Can you guys tell us about some areas that you've struggled in, or a particularly hard day that you had?
5 a.m. mornings.
For what? Meetings or?
So that was one thing that was a change up from college.
Yes.
Different in my perspective from a lot of other sales jobs. Because mine deals with a lot of retail. So I get up at 5, you're in the office at 6:30, and you're there until 5:30, sometimes 6. You're in an office, so it's a lot less kind of you make your own meetings, but what I like about it, it's very structured. But that it does become a lot. And I think something that Leif touched on, something that I really struggled with, And it is just a facet of sales, is that, it's constantly a game. People are always trying to push you. And some days you'll have those days. You just don't want to just be like that all-on competitive, ready to make the sale. You're not just like fully into it. You'll definitely have those days. And so something that was definitely a struggle with after a couple months in, I was like, I don't know if I can keep this up. I can't do it. But then I decided, hey, this is just a time. It might just be a weird week. It might be a weird month. And so I said, next month this is going to change. Came back in, just tried to embrace it, and really decided, I was like, no, I will beat the numbers from anyone. This needs to happen. And decided to say, well, the office job is work. It's really fast-paced kind of sales environment. So I kind of took that and said, well, I just got to embrace it and find how it makes me work better. How can I work myself around that schedule or these difficult conversations, or how do I convince these type of customers that I struggle with to do it? And once I figured that out, that really helped it. But it definitely was a struggle to kind of keep up the energy for like 12 hours a day of just like, we have to sell, we have to like stay happy. And I think that was something, I don't know if I was prepared for, but it was interesting in my kind of career choice there.
Okay.
Yeah, sales is a grind, man. It's like, I don't know I'm sure there are plenty of other careers that are, would top it in this sense, but it's like I don't know of any other careers that are as like taxing on your like emotions, or especially like with certain kinds of sales. It depends on, like you said, if you're doing inbound or outbound or what kind of customers you're dealing with. But especially when you're acquiring leads, like I am going and showing my face on people's doorsteps to sell them roofs, which you might be like, that's really annoying. But no, it's a really awesome service that I'm offering. But yeah, you're like, the amount of people that you're talking to, or if you're making 200 dials a day, the odds are you're going to talk to several people with mental health issues, or who are just having a bad day. And like, God bless them, because like you are just coming into people's lives at these random times, especially if you're calling them or if you're knocking on their doors. So that can be hard. I've been chewed out a couple times, like you get used to that, but like you have to be very resilient. And I think that is one of the biggest things. Like I would say I think most people can do sales and you can learn a lot of key skills to do sales. But one of the biggest things is you have to be willing to kind of pick yourself back up and make the next phone call after you've been chewed out. I had a gun pulled out on me once in West Virginia when I knocked on someone's door. It was so weird. It was like a middle-aged woman, and I was walking down her driveway, and she was like, "What are you doing here?" But the scary thing was, like, I've dealt with very aggressive people, and it's like fine. I just like move along, but she was like calm, cool, and collected. It was like really scary.
And also had a gun.
Yeah, and I was just like very friendly. I had been working with her neighbors, and I was blah blah blah. And then she was like, "You have 30 seconds to get off my property." So that was like frightening, and like I definitely stopped working for the rest of the day. I like went home and cried a little bit. No, I didn't.
Good idea.
But like that's kind of an extreme example. I've never heard of anyone else who does what I do that's happened to them. But that's just to show like you are going to go through these like emotional pitfalls, or even if you're just like having a bad day, you're doing everything right, because sales is a numbers game, but sometimes the numbers are just not in your favor, because like averages, you like go all over the place. So sometimes you just have like a week where you're like, this isn't going well. Yeah. So it can be discouraging, but I think it takes a certain character to be able to push through that and focus on the positives, focus on the positive things that you have done, and like the amazing services that you've given to people. And that's something that I've really come into. I went to this really awesome sales conference out in Utah, which was really inspiring on a lot of ways, like even kind of on a spiritual way. It was like Mormon thing. It was really, they're big on door to door. So, anyway, sorry, I'm rambling. But what I've come to realize is getting through that relies on a lot of just like mental fortitude, obviously, but also just positivity, and a lot of that is spiritual, like focusing on kind of like who you are and like what God has made you to be. That's really important in sales, and that's something that the sales industry really lacks. there's a lot of people who, get super discouraged and then they get addicted to drugs because, whatever, it's really bad in a lot of places. But if you don't have that kind of purpose, I don't think you can really do well. I mean, you can do well because there's people, that do crazy well in sales, secular people. But sorry, I'm just rambling.
No, it's good. We need to hear this stuff. We need to hear all aspects of it. Yeah, Leif, go ahead.
Yeah, kind of bouncing off of that, something I think you always need to embrace when you struggle for the first few years is killing them with kindness. The moment where you want to fight back and they're cussing you out, or someone's I don't need this, or I don't need X, Y, and Z, or you're just trying, you're just cheating me, or whatever, false accusations they make. The immediate response is to play defense, go defense and then play offense. But in those moments, you're never going to close a sale by yelling at the customer. It doesn't. It never happens. So just having that attitude of remaining calm, even though it's really it's difficult because you want to rebuttal, but you're just hey, yes, I understand, Mr. Prospect, or hey, what can we do? What's the scenario here that we're missing that you're unhappy with, so I can take it to my manager or I can take it to my director. But it's in the end, you're always just killing them with kindness. Hey, what can I do? And it always gets the deal across. And who knows? Just John, to your point, the prospect, there's more going on in the scenario than you. And 99% of the time, it has nothing to do with you. It's because maybe they went through a breakup. Maybe they just they're going through some financial difficulty. Maybe they're on the edge of losing their job. And so there's more to the picture than meets the eye. So that's where you can actually be a benefit to the sale by just being calm, being kind, and being hey, look, maybe this isn't a good time to talk. Can I follow up, in a month? Actually, I had that happen. This was a CEO from Texas for this software company. Outbound cold called him. The dude was very ticked. He was not happy. And I again, it was an uncomfortable situation. I wanted to just immediately hang up the phone. But I was hey, all right, sir, it looks like I called you at a bad time. When's a good day to call back? And he was oh, just not now. I was okay, not now. When? In May. Okay. When in May can I call you back? Do you have your calendar in front of you? And he said, call me back on May 12th. Okay, May 12th. What time typically works best? Morning or afternoon? Afternoon. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Prospect. I'll call you back at 2 p.m. in the afternoon on May 12th, 11th, whatever day we decided. And then hung up. A month later, I had that in my calendar to call him back. Got him back on the phone, and he's yeah, who's this? Completely different tone. Yeah, who's this? This is Mr. Prospect, Joe from some software company. And I was hey, Joe, we spoke about a month ago. You asked me to call back on this day and time. This is Leif with Zoom info. And he started laughing. He was oh, I did? I said, and then I started laughing too, kind of near him, kind of hey, yeah, we're friends here. And he's oh, okay. Yeah, no, what can I do for you, Leif? We had a 5-10 minute conversation. He was interested. I passed on, I booked a meeting with him to meet with my account executive. And the account executive messaged me an hour later. He said, that's one of the best meetings I've had. It was a CEO of the software company. This could be easily a $20,000, $30,000 deal right here. And that just shows don't listen to whatever the prospect was saying, whatever came out of his mouth had nothing to do with you as a sales rep. Just something wasn't right on the back end. So just always pushing through and never being discouraged.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, thanks. All right, so let's get a little bit practical. So if these students out here want to go into the field of sales and customer service, what should they be doing right now at Christendom? What should they be involved with? What jobs should they be doing over the summer, et cetera? Dominic?
Yeah, I think I thought a lot about this. My time during Christendom really took advantage of a lot of opportunity. And so looking back, I was what do I tell them? But really coming through is something where you start out early, I would say, is thinking about maybe you don't know if you want to do sales or maybe you don't necessarily think you have the personality for it, but what just general rule and something that I think a lot of students do take advantage of is just any leadership opportunity, anything that shows that you put an initiative, that you set yourself goals, because really in sales it's setting goals and then trying to hit them. And so any leadership role, I mean, I took the route of admissions is an incredible spot to do it, especially with the counselor, with, the ambassadors program. That was really, really great because you're just having a conversation, and something that I think I learned and something you have as students have a great opportunity. Is a lot of sales is just literally being able to have a conversation with someone, being able to just talk and understand what they're saying and listen. So there's so many opportunities. Think about the conversations you're having with your professor in your office hours. Really try to listen, understand, engage, and try to not just be thinking about what you're going to say, but try to, how can I say something that will maybe bring something to light, and where I can find areas of opportunity. So you can try out, especially being in any sports teams. Another thing that I always had a goal at Christendom was, don't just be in I'm in a club, or I go to these events. Be the event. So go and help out. Go take initiative, because those are things that when you go to an interview, especially with any sales, is saying, I put myself out there. I made a kind of branded myself as I'm the person. I'm this student who goes and doesn't just go to an event, but takes on kind of some leadership. I talk to all my friends and got a huge group of people that come to this event that maybe a lot of other people would show up to. Taking all those areas of opportunity and trying to definitely take advantage of the jobs on campus. And I think it's something, I worked a lot of jobs at Christendom. I may not have taken some of them as seriously as I should have. But something is really, when you put in, I know it's only a couple hours a week, but something to think about is you are creating your brand. College is not that long, as I now realize. I think we've all realized since we've left. But you're going to get out soon, and you can be like, wow, I've been practicing how I want to show up to the office every day, or how I want to go and knock a door, or, when I dial the phone, what's my attitude when I put myself to something? So definitely to say, take advantage of, Christendom has so many opportunities. And I just feel like every time I, kind of take a glimpse on Facebook or just try to catch up on what's going on at Christendom, there seems to be just more events, more things, more programs that are only there to help students create their brand, and really make them sellers, give them opportunity to work, to sell themselves, which is, I think, at least in my experience, been the biggest selling point to the job. It's just sell yourself. If you're a nice person, you've had some experience behind your belt, you're going to go a long way, especially with setting goals, personal goals for yourself, with jobs on campus and areas of opportunity. So that's kind of my 2 cents on what
that's really good.
Students can do.
I would echo that, definitely with jobs on campus. I mean, I never did either of these, but I think admissions, working at admissions and development are really good for sales. I mean, you're doing a lot of sales in that. But I would say even just more general than that, like I said, sales is so universal, and it basically permeates every part of your life. I think one of the biggest things is just go out of your comfort zone, because that's ultimately what sales is. I mean, that's not the essence of sales, but anytime you're doing sales, you're going to have to go out of your comfort zone. You're going to have to go talk to people. You're going to have to call people on the phone. So, and this is something I actually kind of wish I had done more at Christendom, is just whether it's with groups of people or events or things, get, Dominic is saying, get involved, but not just with leadership, but just go out of your comfort zone and do things that you don't like, or just try things. I think that builds a lot of character that would be huge down the road in sales. I will also say, I think a lot of people underrate the experience they get from waitressing or being a waiter. That is huge. I think, and I've talked to people really high up in these big sales companies, in other parts of the country. They very much value people who have been waiters or stuff like that, waitresses, hosts. So definitely be proud of that if you've done that. Also take advantage of it if you can. I think that's pretty good experience for sales, because you're selling all the time, and you're also just dealing with people. So that's really good to do, I think, as well.
Okay. Leif, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would say, both Dominic and John hit out a lot of good points, particularly about being uncomfortable. That goes a long way. When you get comfortable being uncomfortable, when you do things that you're just that's not really me, or just doesn't really, feel right, it's not about your feelings. No one cares. Like, just do it. You gotta learn this new technology. You gotta, make a video call for sales. Just do it. No one cares what you feel. No one cares about, what happened in your morning. Just do it. But I think to that point where students can do this every day is really in the classroom. Asking questions to your professors, even if it feels uncomfortable, no one thinks it's odd at all. I've been there. I think we've all been there before, where we don't want to ask the professor a question, even though it's on our mind. The likelihood that everyone else has a question as well, is the same question, is very high. Just ask it, and if anything, the professor's going to be like, "Wow, thank you. I appreciate that." It's starting maybe a new conversation here that opens up the door for this particular topic. So I'd say on a daily basis, just always being active in your classes, asking questions, having active listening, that's also massive in sales. People think sales is all about talking. It's actually not. Most sales, again, talking from my area, which would be the software IT sales, it's going to be more listening. You're going to stop 20% talking and 80% listening. So you've got to be an active listener. I think there's 2 points that the customer is talking about. So being active the whole time, asking questions when it's appropriate, and then knowing when to just be quiet and just listen. So I'd say within the classroom, it's always being active and participating, but then also having one-on-one conversations with the professors. You master that, you as a student are going to benefit from it. It's going to go a long way when you're having conversations with that CEO or that VP of sales that wants to hire you, and you're just comfortable talking with someone who has way more expertise, then you're just asking questions and knowing when to just be silent and listen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, did you have something to add? Okay. John, you mentioned earlier that you sometimes have called people to see if they need a roof, if they need something, or if they know somebody. So tell us a little bit more about networking and how it's played into your job. Because everybody loves networking.
I think networking is super important. I will say I've done that a little bit. I haven't done it a lot. It's something I learned from my brother-in-law, who's a real estate agent. He basically told me, he was like, every day I have to make X amount of phone calls, and just that's how he starts his day. And it's people he knows or anyone, just personally, and whether he's trying to sell to them or someone else. So I've only done that a little bit, but I think it's super big, just getting out there. Like I said, getting out of your comfort zone, because it's hard to just pick up the phone and talk to someone about what you have to offer or anything. But I think a lot of sales is building rapport. A lot of sales, whether you're actually targeting someone or that sounds very aggressive. Whether you're actually trying to sell to someone, or if you're just trying to network, for whatever reason, building rapport and just creating relationships is going to be really important. So whether you're good at that now or whether, I think people can get good at that. That's really a really good thing to do, is just to kind of just get yourself out there in a good way. I'm trying to think of particular examples where, I think that's all I have to share about it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
If you think of one, you can always pop
Cool.
it in. Dominic, does networking come up a lot in your job?
It does. I think it's interesting in that it kind of was talking about the brand you build. So with interesting, unique thing about enterprise is they only hire from within their own company. So once you start at the management training program, which I'm almost done completed, they're just waiting for you to want the opportunity to move up. So one thing that's huge in that we're kind of taught, kind of from the corporate heads, are kind of find every opportunity. Don't just sell your numbers. Of course, you need to keep those up. It makes you look better. It makes someone who says, "Oh, we have a position open, at this incredible large branch, tons of area to, makes more overhead profit, means higher paychecks for you. Who would we hire next?" And people can have the greatest numbers in the world, but the one thing is you have to put yourself out there. And so that's something I do on a regular basis, is try to keep in touch with people, or we go, have company events. Don't just kind of stand with the people that or the people who work in your branch, or your sales associates that you know, but also going out and saying, hey, I'm just like you. What position are you? I've started a lot of conversations, and we regularly email, and they're kind of like, hey, so how's it going? Are you looking to get promoted? Your numbers are great. Like, we would love for you to come here. I think this would be a good fit. And so that's something interesting, that kind of building your brand and how you want to move forward in a company is something that networking is just huge. It's you're kind of always being watched, especially if it is like a social event, but just take the opportunity, own the room, and just walk up and say, hi, I'm Dominic, or my name is this, and just start a conversation. And you've no idea whether that person's going to come in and say, oh, actually I have this great opportunity, or hey, you should talk to this person. This is where I think you should go. And so I do that a lot, and we have a great opportunity in my program that I'm in to have opportunities of going to events, connecting with other people similar to myself, and something that I didn't know I was going to have to do, but when I started it, I was like, this is super important. You never know when those connections are going to end up coming out for you and helping you out in there in the end. So
it sounds like networking from both sides. John, you were talking more about networking to hopefully get a sale.
Correct.
And Dominic, you're talking about networking to hopefully be promoted and keep moving up the ladder in your career.
Exactly.
And both of them are so important. So again, networking. I know everybody's afraid of that word and doing that, but it's really important. So Leif, is there anything you wanted to add about networking?
Yeah, you're right. There's the networking on the sales side, but then on the networking on you as an individual, as a sales rep. Kristen, you tell me what you think. What that's going to talk about.
Oh, I couldn't quite hear you. What was that?
Which round of networking would you like me to comment on the sales side, or more just the personal development, career development?
Go for both of them.
Okay. Yeah, sales as a networking, it really depends on your job. If you're working as a 1099 contractor, you better be hustling and bustling and getting yourself out there, because you're working as your own marketer, your own project manager, your own sales guy. But in terms of I guess in the roles I've done with inside sales, outside sales, executive work, software, a lot of the networking, it kind of all comes internally. Sorry, the lighting here is this stuff's a lot of it comes internally. So all the network should be done through the company providing you those opportunities for your career, for leads and whatnot. But if you're looking at your more your sales career, I think it's shocking how news gets around pretty quickly. If you're hitting your number, if you're doing your job well, just news gets out. People hear about it, and the company Smith, Joe or Smith, hit their number. Wow, they're at the top of the leaderboard. You don't really need to do any marketing there. Or networking there. Your VPs, your directors, all their eyes are watching the salespeople, because the salespeople are the ones bringing in the revenue for the company. So if you're doing your job, it just kind of naturally comes out in terms of those opportunities. I think something always to keep in mind and I didn't really know about this until a few years after graduating and being in the field, is that also with networking, if you're trying to find a career or an opportunity, most companies offer incentives for referrals. So if I refer someone, or if Dominic refers someone, or John refers someone, you get a bonus from that. Most companies have that. It could be, it's different. Every company is. But if you're working for an enterprise company, 100%. It's a $2,000 bonus if you refer someone. And so those are the opportunities you always want to handle. Those are where you're kind of I'm working as a sales rep, but I'm also hiring for my company because I get a bonus off of it. And so that's what a lot of people do. And so if you know that, again, that was something I totally wish I know going when I graduated. You just reach out to someone on LinkedIn, a sales rep on LinkedIn, and be like, hey, are you hiring? Put a good word in for me. Let's have a conversation and put a good word in for me. And that person heck yeah, because I get a $1,000, $2,000 bonus because of it. And so that's where you kind of have to know what's going on internally within the company. Again, every company is different, but most enterprise companies out there have that referral bonus. But yeah, then going like to Dominic's point, you're working up the ladder. You're being that person that is likable, that people like know, like, and trust. And the directors and the VPs, they eventually hear about you. They're like, wow, we just love Dominic because he's so like on par. He's always like treating customers well. There's no negative feedback. His manager never has to call him and be like, hey, why aren't you at work today? Which is surprising because that happens so much in the world today. It's people just not being on time. It's sad, but like that's the reality of it. Yeah, I'd say just like get to know internally within your company. If you're that awesome sales rep that's hitting your number and is someone that people love and like and trust, yeah, you'll work up the career ladder pretty quickly.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, wonderful. So I want to turn it over to students to see if they've got any questions. We have a microphone that Aaron will walk around. So if you all have a question, we'll take a couple minutes to ask questions, and then I just want to put it back to you all. If there's something we didn't cover or something that we don't get to with the questions, you guys can chime in. So
good.
who's got the first question for us? Not for me, for them.
No one has questions.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, we got one.
Thank you.
One brave soul.
I was going to say, I know they did an awesome job, and I've learned so much, so I don't know.
I kind of have a dual question. So in the Bill Murray movie Groundhog Day, there's a character, Ned Ryerson, and when Bill Murray figures out that he sells life insurance, he's kind of like, oh, of course you sell life insurance. And so, like, that's actually kind of a response I've seen in real life when I've told people about, like, some of the opportunities I have this summer. So, like, I was wondering, like, why does sales get such a bad rep? And then how do you respond to that if you've ever gotten any, like, negative responses?
Leif, do you
Who
want
wants
that?
to go first?
I'll take it if you don't.
What's the question? I couldn't really hear it that well.
He was asking, why does sales have such a bad rep?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Right. So a lot of it is, a lot of sales is base commission, and then you have your base salary. So you may start off if you're working as a sales rep, which you'd go into if you immediately graduated. You would have like a base salary of anywhere from like $40,000 to $50,000. On top of that, like you will have about $20,000 roughly in like commission. And so that's where like you get the sleaziness. Like, a lot of people are trying to twist the system. So they get a deal, they get someone's money, and there was no really pain there. So it's really like taking advantage of the commission that you can potentially make. I would say, if you're working as a W-2 employee, it's kind of hard to get by that line. Most people are going to find out because there's that base salary there. So your managers are always watching every deal come through. They're watching your conversations or hearing about how you're pitching it, and they'll call you out and be like, dude, no, we don't do that, or we don't provide that. You're working a very sleazy way in sales. So it's kind of hard, like as a W-2 employee, to be working in that and to be kind of cheating the system, so to speak. And most people find out all the time. Like I can't tell you how many times I see it where someone's like, where a manager says, hey, you got to make 200 dials a day. And someone's like, oh, okay, I just need to make 200 dials. So what they'll do is that they'll call the same number over and over and over again to hit the 200 mark. No joke, it happens all the time. What happens? Managers see that and they're like, all right, this person did hit 200 dials, but like nothing, like he's not bringing in any revenue. And then they eventually will dive a little bit deeper, find out it's the same number that they're just calling, and that person's let go like pretty quickly. So there's no really way to cheat the system. If you were trying to cheat the system, that's where you'd be like, I'd say, working as like someone in life insurance, which is typically, I don't work in life insurance. I don't really know that area too much, but I think typically it's like you would be working as a 1099 contractor. So you're you're kind of your own company, and you're really trying, there's no one like holding you accountable, so to speak. Or there is, but it's on a very, very high end, very far end, distant, I should say. But if you're working as a W-2 employee, it's pretty hard. Like managers and directors find out pretty quickly if you're trying to go that path, trying to cheat the system.
Okay. Yeah. Do you guys have
Yeah,
something to add about how you deal
going
with
back to like the groundhog thing. Like also a part of it is the sleaziness, and that's kind of what I was saying earlier. Is like why I think a lot of people just have a bad idea of sales, or what I used to, is because they kind of just equate salespeople with being sleazy and always just money grabbing. But another one I think is just because people view salespeople as annoying, because they're always getting in your or like they're actively trying to sell, all the time, always be closing, like they're always trying to close. So people just get annoyed by that, and also there's just a lot of annoying people that do it, I think. So that creates cliches, and that creates bad rep. So I guess that's ultimately, I mean, it's both. It's the sleaziness, and it's just like people are like, I don't want to be bothered right now, and so they just, there's lots of life insurance people scamming people out there. So yeah,
Sure.
I don't know. I think that's ultimately it.
Okay.
Yeah, the quick thing on like the I think Leif talked about it was the one thing I started as soon as I started. I was like, fresh into the job, and I was like, how can I make more sales? And I thought these grand ideas of like, well, couldn't we just do it? And they just looked at me and said, look, we've got 22,000 people working here. They've tried everything. A lot of people just don't do it. Just like, and that's working as a W-2. One small thing is that it's already been tried. There's already a way to find out, and so it keeps you honest when you're doing it. But there's definitely, the classic. People always compare. It's like, you're just a car salesman. Hey, you want the car? It's like it's just like classic. Like I will convince you, and you will walk away with a car and be like, why? Where did my money go? And why am I driving this thing? So I definitely understand that. But it is, what just happened? But when you're actually working in the field, it's not. It doesn't really act like that because everyone's very sensitive now. So you can't be like, just sit there and just be like, you need this now. It's a lot more like, let's have a conversation and let's figure out what you need. So I think that's kind of the difference there.
Okay. And I think something you touched on earlier, John, was having a purpose.
Correct.
Like you guys kind of laughed at it, but you said you're selling them a great product. Like you're offering them a really great service, and I think we could maybe laugh at like, oh yeah, roofing, that's a great service, haha. But really, you have to get behind the product that you're selling. Like at some point,
whatever it is.
not all of you can go out and sell every single product out there. You have to find the thing that you are interested in, that you see a purpose in. And life insurance salesmen, sometimes they are like, I believe in selling life insurance. I think it's the most important thing, and they
Life
get behind
insurance
it.
is great.
You definitely need to have life insurance. Get that in the future. But, I think that kind of can help you. You asked the second part of how do you deal with that. And so I think when you have that purpose behind it and you know that you're selling something that people can utilize and you aren't being sleazy in it, then it feels good.
The big thing is just like I said, or I don't know if I did say this, like sales ultimately is all about the truth. And it has to be about the truth. And like what is sales? It's like essentially it's telling the truth, about a product or selling, convincing people of the truth essentially. And if you're not rooted in the truth, then it's going to be a sham and it's going to go downhill quickly. So it's really good to like have kind of a sense of what's right, and then also believing in what you're selling, because otherwise it's just going to be really not rewarding.
Sure.
Absolutely.
All right, other questions? Who's got one? All of you know everything
Come on,
about sales.
guys.
You have 0 questions? Nobody's like, can I get a job? Are you guys hiring? I mean, we know Don.
We're always hiring. I could make an extra $2,000. So anyone can come on.
Shameless
and
plug.
Start a line.
My company is hiring, so.
Roof Simple is hiring? Really?
Believe it or not,
They're hiring for all positions.
not all
Right.
positions.
No.
I'm sorry.
Oh, darn. Okay. Other questions? No, you guys are like, come on.
Time to go.
Got it. Okay.
Reviews
They
or
had their 3 drinks.
interviews or start your first day or what you should know going into all this.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yeah.
Okay, so
Speak
like
loudly.
when you first, like, do you have people who tell you like kind of what to say on the call? Like especially I guess for you since you're kind of working for yourself. Like, I guess do you know what you're pitching, and does it ever get hard to be like, oh, where's this conversation going? What am I supposed to be saying? Is that hard?
Yes, it can be hard, but yeah, that's what training is for. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to give you the wrong idea, because I work for myself like legally, like for tax reasons, but ultimately I work for Roof Simple. So yeah, they're training me. They have tons of resources. So yeah, you're dealing ultimately all of sales. We didn't even talk about this, but like one of the biggest buzzwords in sales is like responding to objections, or overcoming objections. That's how people say it. So there's always going to be objections, whatever you're selling, and usually with whatever you're selling, you're going to have been trained to overcome objections, and a lot of that really comes down to like a liberal education. Is being able to kind of think of things rationally and present them clearly. I think that's really huge, and that's why I really do think that like Christendom grads or Ave grads, anyone who went to like kind of a general liberal arts school are really well equipped to bring their skills, to sales in general, whatever kind of sales it is. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you do have that training, or I have that training, yeah, which is helpful.
Dominic, Leif, did you guys get trained?
Oh yes,
that
still,
part.
it's always training, always training.
Yeah, and always learning. A big part of sales is, sorry, I know I just spoke, but a big part of sales is always wanting to grow. Because especially I'm in a different position than Dominic. Dominic is in like this kind of corporate structure. I don't know about Leif. But it's like, from the outside looking in, it can be like, is there any way to grow? And there absolutely is a way to grow. There's always new ways to be creative and finding new ways to sell and learning new, things about psychology and about people and talking, and also just being able to make more money, because there's no cap on that because it's in sales.
Sure.
So there's always a path upwards, essentially. At least, sorry,
Yeah.
if I kind of cut you off.
And most companies have like 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even a full month, where it's pure training. Like you're just trying to get your feet wet, trying to get uncomfortable, like we talked about. And those are the moments where like you want to be making as many mistakes as possible and just learning from your mistakes, because you're in training mode. There was when I first started working for software sales, the CEO said, I want you to know like my product and service like, inside and out. Therefore, I'm giving you 2 pages of like paragraphs, like non-space. Like, is it like 2 pages of just paragraphs on the products that we provide? And I want you to memorize all of them. You have 3 weeks to do this. Or actually, 3 weeks of training. You have a week and a half to do it. And so we had a week and a half to memorize all these, scripted paragraphs for us. And then on the week and a half at the end of it, like we all were brought into a room, and our manager's like, right, decide it. Like we told you, a week and a half, memorize it. You should have it all verbatim at this point. And you're just in the room, and everything. And this is where like Christendom students dominate. Like if you had the education, the discipline that you had at Christendom, like you will just own the floor, and people will be like, oh, gosh, like I should have woken up at 6 a.m. to memorize my scripts. And in that room, it's just like verbatim, like reciting off all the the lines that you got to say, and you'll be put to the test there. But yeah, in sales, like you're always hopefully you're always growing. You're always disciplining yourself. You're always learning something new. You're always asking questions to your manager. How can I do this better? You're always being coachable. I mean, ask any recruiter or director that's hiring. They'll say, I want someone who's coachable. And that's where I think going back to our point of being humble, and it can be really humiliating, is you got to be always asking questions. If you think that you know everything about like this product or this service, you don't. It's just the way it is. Like you got to be humble and say, hey, like, let's do more training. Let's do more recordings of my voice so I can hear what I sound like on the phone. And just always learning more and taking being 1% better each and every day. But you ask that to a company or your manager, it's very flattering. Managers will be like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like, you want to get better? I'm here to help you. Just as when you go to a professor and say, hey, professor, like, I want to know more about, this area of history or this area of philosophy. The professor's never going to shoo you away. The professor's going to be like, yeah, I'm very honored. That's my job as a professor, and that's my role. And so they'll walk you through it. But you never think that you're alone. Like you always have help. But you do sometimes you gotta ask it.
Okay. Any last comments from the three of you? Anything you want to share that we didn't get to touch on?
Yeah, Kristen, I want to just point out to like Kristen and students as a whole that like the discipline, the education, the formation that Kristen and students have is.
That's it. What is it?
This is the secret to the rest of your life.
Oh no. Okay. Well.
I just got off there.
Yes. You cut off. Okay. You said it is, and then you cut off. So, tell us.
Kristen, hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sweet.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll go kind of going back a bit.
Yeah.
Like just Christendom students, like the formation you have, like here at Christendom is like nothing compared to what the world is getting. So like use that to your advantage. Like obviously be humble and be able to, learn more, but also don't like undersell yourself. Like Christendom students have so much opportunity and are given so many amazing gifts and talents that you can always use that to your advantage and work your way up in the career path.
Totally.
Awesome. Thank you.
And then
Well, go
There's
ahead.
one last thing.
Yeah.
One thing I thought about Christendom students in general, after being here for years and be able to see so many students come through who decided to choose Christendom, is Christendom students are very nice people. It's surprisingly, like, to compare to the rest of the world, people your age, just people in general, people who are coming into the working world, you guys are honest, you grow up with rules, you guys are Catholic, and it's amazing. You guys are such a pool of people who everyone's looking for you. But one thing that's great in sales is not only do you get to be a really nice person, you're just having a conversation, but another big thing is that I love personally, I think the funnest thing about any sales job, I've worked in a couple different areas, is you literally just get to just be your personality all the time. I mean, you are just on display. You're just chatting with customers. You're just talking and starting a conversation. And so we were talking about pitches and memorize this and stuff. What I love about it is, yes, there's always a base pitch. You're always trying to pitch something to someone, but you always get to put your own personality twist on it. So you get to have fun with it. You get to kind of put your personality to when you knock that door or you meet that customer, you're talking to another business. You're meeting me. Of course, I have this product I'm pitching you, but you're just pitching yourself, and you get to throw your whole personality in, which I think is just a lot of fun. Since so many students here have incredible personalities, I think it makes it really, really awesome to go into kind of the sales role. I think it's something confident you guys have. So
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, amen to that.
Last chance. Any questions? Oh, we do have a question. Yes, Ashleyana.
I was just wondering, do you guys have any recommendations for looking for summer internships that have to do with sales? And also, are there any signs to tell whether or not a company is good to work for, especially for interns, because they can tend to be taken advantage of and just expected to call their relatives and pressure them into buying a product. So what do you guys recommend to avoid a situation like that and to get incredible experience, but also be able to make money during the summer?
Dang, that is a really, really good question. I'd like to speak to part of your question. Sorry, I don't know any really good internships. I mean, you could come work for my company and just
we have internships
do
too.
knocking doors for a summer. But no, I'm not plugging that. But what you asked about whether there are bad companies to work for, what are the kind of bad signs, and this is something I've thought about a lot. And I've interacted with a lot of people throughout the country. I've also read a lot of books about sales and stuff. And there are companies that do the same thing that I do that kind of very different in some ways. But I would say the two things to kind of look for, or that are kind of bad signs in a sales job, are one, a culture that stresses frivolity over frugality, or basically frivolous purchases. So there's a lot of companies that are managers that want their sales reps to kind of live kind of lavish lifestyles. And I was looking at stats, the percentage of people who make over $100,000 that live paycheck to paycheck is astounding. Because a lot of these people in sales companies, they're pushed to be super materialistic and to spend all their money so that they're more dependent on the company that they're selling for. And that's a really bad thing to be involved in, I think. It's really good to be more frugal and make better investments. The other thing, I already forget what it was. Something, basically just like you can kind of tell when people are, pushing bad practices or, not rooted in the truth. That would be a red flag. I might think of it later and I'll come tell you. It was something else that I thought of. I can't remember.
Okay. Leif, did you get to hear the question, Leif?
A little bit. Can you repeat it, Kristen?
Yeah, I'll try. It was multifaceted. One, she wanted to know where to find good summer internships in sales. And then also, how can you tell if a company is worthy to work for, or if it sounds like what John just kind of explained, where they're pushing a different kind of lifestyle than our students would probably want to live. Oh no.
Is he gone?
Oh, there we go.
Sorry.
You're there.
It's cutting in. Yeah.
Okay. You're good. You're there.
All right.
Go ahead.
Can you say it just one more time? Yeah.
Sure.
Apologize.
So how about this? Just answer this one part. Where's the best place to find sales internships for the summer so that students can get experience and make money?
Yeah. Okay. I think a lot of it is on LinkedIn. You have like a LinkedIn account. It's where everyone advertises themselves, and just put in a few keywords: sales internship, sales development role, part-time. And you can pull up a lot on LinkedIn. That's something as well. I wish I had started into that area. And a lot of it, I think a lot of software companies don't really do internships, so to speak. It's more part-time work. Like they're just doing, because they want to invest in you. They're like, hey, let's just do maybe 4 to 10 hours a week. And then when you graduate, they'll give you a full-time job.
Sure.
So again, I haven't really seen internships in the sales world a lot. It's more part-time work, even if it's just working weekends and them investing in you ever so, all day, just building it up.
Okay. Thanks. And then we know Enterprise has internships.
Yeah. One big, I think, kind of if you are looking into a job or you do find an internship, or like Leif was saying, a lot of it is going to end up just being part-time work. And a lot of it, when you're looking or you're talking with a hiring manager, you're talking to whoever you're having your interview with, I've had this happen several times, sort of looking for jobs as I was looking at Enterprise, was these sales jobs that were like, you'll be making, thousands of millions of dollars a month, and you'll be amazing, and you'll be, buying a Corvette in 3 weeks. And I was like, wow, this sounds amazing. Like, all my dreams come true.
Yeah.
But then I was like, after a couple of interviews of that happening, I sat down and I went to someone and I was like, so on average, what does the average person look like? And they're like, oh, you'll probably walk out of this summer or this, after 3 months with maybe, 10 grand. I was like, okay, that's fine with me. That's all I wanted. Like, that's fine. Whatever your goal is that you want to make as far as goal, but just don't get looped into, like, that couple people in the company make that. It's that they're, of course, they're trying to get you to start. But something to think about is, okay, well, on average, your average Joe coming in, what are they averagely making? And trying to be realistic, because that will happen. That's something to just be wary of. So you can kind of put in yourself like, okay, I want to make money this summer at doing the sales role where I could have the potential to make a lot. What averagely are we looking at? And you can kind of you can help to make a decision practically for how you want to go about that. So just kind of a tip on that.
Yeah. The other thing, just going back to your question, Ashley, is I wouldn't sleep on other opportunities that are not specifically like sales internships or even internships. Like, there's lots of jobs that if you want to get out of college where you kind of need internship experience. Sales definitely isn't something where it's like you need to like have gone through this like stage of internships. But like I said, I wouldn't sleep on like other opportunities, like even waitressing, like, or being a server, or like I said, sales. If you're interested in doing sales after college, you're going to gain a lot of experience that is really good for sales in a wide variety of jobs and just experiences too. So just keep that in mind, I would say.
All right. Oh, Leif, did you have one more thing?
Yeah, no, I would just comment, like, sales is a numbers game. So when you're writing out a resume to apply to a company, it's always focus on the numbers. I waited 50 tables a night. I called maybe 50 calls in the evening working as admissions counselor for personnel. I hosted maybe 100 events throughout my 4 years at personnel. They were like, managers always look at the numbers. Like, numbers won't lie. And that's, I'd say, if you're starting off or you're trying to build up your resume, building up your career, always focus on the numbers because that's the objective. That's objective. That's what managers can always, they'll ask about, and it looks great on a resume. It tells you where you're at.
Yeah. Okay.
That's really good.
Well, this has been amazing. I don't know about you all, but I surely have learned a lot, and I appreciate you all sharing so much. So give our gentlemen a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.